Hello again. Let's talk for just a moment about feast days and the Apocrypha. February 2nd, in addition to being the feast day for Punxsutawney Phil, is, according to the Christian calendar, the feast of the purification of Mary the Blessed Virgin, or the presentation of Christ. So it goes by a few different names. And if you're following in the lectionary of the 1662 prayer book, the reading for that day, this is different than the 1928, which I think has you reading from 1 Samuel and in the morning in Exodus at Evensong. So if you are using the 1662, the reading for the purification of the Virgin Mary has you reading Wisdom chapter 9. Which wasn't in the Bible that I had been using up to this point. I'd been using a big, large print King James Bible, reference Bible. So it was out of necessity, I had to switch it up. And taking the advice of my neighbor, Dale, from a few thousand miles away, I decided to give the Jerusalem Bible a try, which has been sitting on my shelf for a while and I've been meaning to get to. So that's what I did. Now, there are very few instances in which the lectionary has one reading from the books that we consider the Apocrypha, the deuterocanonical books. And I believe all of those instances are on feast days. So during the regular course of the year in the lectionary, on a non-feast day, so the vast majority of the calendar, you'll be reading from the standard Protestant canon of Scripture. But on certain feast days, they do bring up, I think the Book of Wisdom and the Book of Sirach are the only two that are called for in the lectionary, if I remember correctly. The focus here. The 39 articles, which is printed along with the prayer book, most prayer books, includes discussion of the books that are considered canonical for the Church of England, and it lists the books of the Old Testament in the standard order that we would normally see them in our Bibles. First book of Esdras and second book of Esdras being Ezra and Nehemiah by a different name. And then it lists, there's this little paragraph, and the other books, as Jerome saith, the church doth read for example of life and instruction of manners, but yet doth it not apply them to establish any doctrine. Such are these following: third book of Esdras, fourth book of Esdras, etc., Tobias, Judith, the book of Wisdom, and Jesus, son of Sirach, is also listed among these, which, as an aside, the books of the Apocrypha have the most terrific names. The Song of the Three Children, the Story of Susanna, Balaam the Dragon, Prayer of Manasses. So, very entertaining names at the very least. So the prayer book in the Church of England is very clear about the place of the Apocrypha in the liturgy of the church. Now, of course, I could have continued reading my morning and evening lessons from the King James Bible that I have, and certainly there are King James Bibles that include the Apocrypha, none of which I own. I would like someday to have one, but I could have continued in the Bible I was using and just supplemented it with something like this that I found at a Goodwill several months ago that has just a paperback, just the Apocrypha bound up with these really delightful and terrifying woodcuts on the front. So I could have, opened up to Sirach or Wisdom in that. But at the same time I picked up that book at the Goodwill, I found this. And as a Bible, it was free at the Goodwill. Jerusalem Bible, in very good shape. Physically it's in good shape. There's some scratching on the gilding, but I mean, you get the gold gilding all the way around. One kind of sad little ribbon that's unraveling a bit. So not the highest quality book. This is a Doubleday production. Jerusalem Bible. There was a place here where it looks like somebody had gouged it with a hard crayon. You can still see the scar where it kind of pressed into this weird fake leather, but there was like red wax in there, which I was able to easily clean out. It's a handsome Bible, but this odd material, I don't know what that is. I mean, it's cardboard, obviously, it's paper. If it's supposed to be fake leather, it's rather the shoddiest fake leather I've seen, probably. But I do like the layout of this edition, and I haven't really spent much time reading in it until this opportunity presented itself. And just to get a little sense of the flavor of the Jerusalem Bible, I'm going to read a little bit of the lectionary reading that was assigned for the feast day of the purification of Virgin Mary. So this is from Wisdom chapter 9. The heading here says, A Prayer for Wisdom. God of our ancestors, Lord of mercy, who by your word have made all things, and in your wisdom have fitted man to rule the creatures that have come from you, to govern the world in holiness and justice, and in honesty of soul to wield authority, grant me wisdom, consort of your throne, and do not reject me from the number of your children. For I am your servant, son of your serving maid, a feeble man with little time to live, with small understanding of justice and the laws. Indeed, were anyone perfect among the sons of men, if he lacked the wisdom that comes from you, he would still count for nothing. I'm not going to read the entire selection there, but you get a sense of it. And I'm kind of liking the translation. It's not popular among some people whose opinions I highly value, but it's more of a free verse kind of translation, which I can overlook. I'm not at this point in my life concerned that I'm going to get bad theology because I read the wrong translation. If at this point in my later years I am that susceptible to having my theology warped by reading a poor translation, well, then I've done a poor job of forming that theology over the past multiple decades, let's just say. So not overly concerned about that, and I like the way it reads. Again, as I said, I like the layout. I think that the type could have been a little clearer. There's some irregularities in the printing. It's lighter ink and then darker ink. It's a free Bible, so I'm going to overlook that. I like the layout for the poetic works. There's lots of blank space in the Bible. I'm not one to take notes in my Bible, but if you were such a one, there's plenty of space for that. But I just like the clean look it gives with all the open space around. Prophetic books, Isaiah, that same kind of lots of open space. Lots of footnotes, which actually have been kind of helpful to me as I'm reading through. I basically switched. I actually had switched to this at a previous feast day, not purification, but the circumcision. So early in the year, I switched to this Jerusalem Bible for my daily lectionary. And so I've read through part of Genesis and so far all of Exodus, as well as the end of Matthew and Mark. So just following the lectionary in the IVP 1662 prayer book in the Jerusalem Bible, and it's a refreshing change, and kind of like it. So I guess I would say don't be afraid to try a different translation. Don't be worried that your theological formation will be stunted or perverted in some way. But my question is, why that selection from the Book of Wisdom for the feast day of the purification of Mary? What's the thought behind that? Because generally the reading has something to do with or something to tell us about the feast day for which that reading is selected. So just based on what I read there, or based on your own reading of Wisdom 9, what does that tell us about the purification of the Virgin Mary, or the presentation of Christ at the temple? Because I'm not certain I know the answer to that, and I'd like to hear what you have to say. So, thanks for joining me for this look at the Jerusalem Bible, which I give a thumbs up to. I really like it, and I'm continuing to enjoy using the 1662, this wonderful IVP edition, daily at Matins and Evensong, morning and evening prayer. And we'll continue, God willing, and the river don't rise until the end of the year. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again next time.